There's a place on 2nd Street that no one talks about out loud. People walk past it quickly, clutching their coats a little tighter, pretending the sagging house with the black shutters doesn't exist. Children are told not to look at it. Teenagers dare each other to touch the rusted fence and run, screaming. When the air around it drops cold, they say the house breathes. They say the windows blink when you're not watching. But that's just superstition, right? It wasn't superstition when Marcus Hale moved in. Marcus didn't believe in haunted houses. He believed in cheap real estate, especially after his divorce. The house at 147 2nd Street was a steal. Spacious, 2 floors, clawfoot tub, fireplace, creaking wood floors, all the charm with none of the hefty price tag. The realtors said the previous owner died of natural causes in the attic. Marcus didn't ask questions. He just signed. The day he moved in, a storm stirred. The kind of sky that turns green, clouds thick enough to crush. His boxes sat in the hallway, unopened, damp air curling around his legs. It smelled faintly of ash and wet meat. Still, it was home now. That first night, something knocked behind the walls. Rats, he thought. The heating system groaned in a strange rhythm. And just before he fell asleep, his bedroom door drifted open on its own, letting a draft colder than ice spread across his sheets. He chalked it up to bad insulation. By the 3rd night, something whispered his name. At first, the sounds were mild, like nails tapping behind drywall. Then came the scratching, furious, desperate, like an animal trying to escape. It echoed through the pipes and floorboards. He cut open a section of the hallway wall and found nothing but dust and a smell like rotting milk. That evening, while brushing his teeth, he saw someone behind him in the mirror. Only for a second. A shape. Pale. Long fingers around the edge of the doorframe. He turned. Nothing. His phone wouldn't hold a charge. Lights flickered in sync with the pounding behind the walls. The scratching grew louder when he played music, almost as if it were angry. When he finally fell asleep, he dreamed of a woman crawling across the ceiling, her hair dangling in clumps, her eyes 2 dark holes gushing blood. The smell of fire woke him at 3 a.m. There was no fire. He called a plumber to check the pipes. The man, tall with thick arms and a nervous smile, went under the house. 10 minutes passed. Then 20, Marcus called out. No answer. He ducked under the crawl space with a flashlight. Cobwebs brushed his cheeks. The air stank of urine and wet paper. His light flicked once, twice, then caught something. Fingers, tiny fingers poking out from the dirt. Then a small, bloated face half buried, mouth agape, eyes stitched shut. The plumber was gone, but there was a boot. His boot, lying inches from the corpse. Marcus scrambled back out, breathing in jagged gasps, tearing cobwebs from his skin. He called the police. They searched, found nothing, no body, no boot. The crawl space was empty. The staircase sighed when he walked up it. Wood didn't creak like that, it moaned, as though the house itself responded to his presence. One night, as he climbed toward his bedroom, the steps pulsed beneath his feet. Not vibrated, pulsed, like a heartbeat. A slow, heavy thud that matched the pressure in his skull. He dropped to his knees and pressed his ear to the wood. There was something alive under there, wet and breathing. Then the wood opened, a gap formed beneath him, and something grabbed his ankle. Cold fingers, no skin, just bone and rot. It pulled. He screamed, kicked, and slammed his hand against the rail until the pressure vanished. He stumbled into his room and bolted the door. For the rest of the night, a voice whispered through the keyhole. You're feeding it. There was one place he hadn't dared enter, the attic. The door sat at the end of the hallway, small and square, with rusted hinges and a handle that wept black liquid. Every night the door oozed a little more, thick, dark, like motor oil. When Marcus wiped it off, it smelled like burnt hair and rot. Eventually the whispering became unbearable. From inside the attic something knocked, slow, deliberate knocks, as if counting, 1, 2, 3, then silence, then laughter, high-pitched, female. When he finally opened it, the air turned to ice. The attic was wrong. The geometry didn't make sense. It was larger inside than outside. The angles twisted, the corners pulsed, and there were dolls, hundreds of them, hanging from the ceiling by their necks. Their eyes had been removed and replaced with human teeth. In the center stood a chair. On it, a woman's dress soaked in blood, folded neatly. And on the wall, carved deep into the wood, "I live under your skin now." His co-workers noticed the change. Marcus stopped showing up. When he did, he stank of mold and looked hollow-eyed. He muttered to himself, flinched at loud noises, and scratched his arms until they bled. One of them, a friend named Julian, visited the house. He never came out. His car sat parked on the curb for 2 days. Then it vanished. Marcus woke up one morning with a tooth in his mouth. Not his own. It was long and yellow, with a metal filling. He hadn't gone to sleep. The mirror showed something else. Not his reflection, but a version of himself with black sockets for eyes and a grin too wide. The reflection whispered, "You're the house now." The floor demanded sacrifices. It groaned until he spilled blood. First mice, then birds. Then something larger. He found a stray dog on the street and brought it in. The house shuddered with delight. As the dog yelped and thrashed, the walls pulsed. The scratches behind them stopped for days, but then they started again. Louder. Angrier. He tried to move out. Packed a bag, locked the door behind him, and walked away. 3 blocks down, he blinked and stood back in his hallway. He dropped his keys. They melted into the floor. She visited every night now. She appeared in corners, ceiling. Corners perched like a spider. Her limbs bent backwards. Her neck cracked when she moved. Her mouth was gone, torn away, skin hanging in ribbons. She stared at him with eyes that never blinked, and when she screamed, the walls bled. One night she sat on his chest while he slept, her broken face inches from his own. She opened a hole in her throat and whispered something wet into his ear. He vomited black sludge for hours afterward. His skin itched. He scratched until he tore it open and found teeth underneath. The house didn't want guests. It wanted hosts. Marcus realized this when he woke up in the attic, strapped to the chair, surrounded by the dolls. Only they weren't dolls now. They blinked. Their mouths twitched. One of them whispered, "Join us." Hands grew from the walls. Hundreds. Some tiny, some withered. They held him down while a face, dripping and half-formed, oozed from the ceiling. It kissed his forehead and slid inside his skin. He screamed. No sound came out. Now the house is quiet. Real quiet. The furniture is dusted. The wood polished. The scent of rot is gone. Marcus is gone too. People say the place on 2nd Street is finally safe again. A new couple moved in last week. They say they got it for a steal. They say the house feels alive. And last night, their daughter said she saw a man standing in her closet. His mouth opened wide. Too wide. A scream stretching out of him, silent and endless. She said his skin was falling off and his eyes were gone, but he smiled anyway. The house always smiles, and it's so hungry.